All right, welcome to this special global podcast. And today, for our global project, we have Keegan Li and Daniel Phillips. I'm Spenser Walsh. We'll be discussing labor rights here in America and with various companies that we've been choosing to study. Daniel, what have you been choosing to study for your company?
My company that I'm choosing to study is Adidas.
And Keegan, what about you?
American Eagle Outfitters.
All right, so what we've been doing is we've been analyzing some of the working conditions in these companies and determining whether they are not violating or violating the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. I'll talk about my company. I've been studying Walmart, and just to quickly outline some of their problems, some of the things that they've done is they've been accused of punishing workers for taking sick days, which is not something you're really supposed to do. It violates the UDHR. To a large degree, and so apparently, this a workers' advocacy group released a report saying that Walmart routinely refuses to accept doctors' notes, penalizes workers that take sick or family leave for medical reasons or whatnot, and all of that's been revolving around pregnancy. Katie Orchowski said her miscarriage was a tragic event in someone's life last fall, almost cost her job at Walmart. And she had to miss a lot of time. Her bosses weren't happy, and kind of get the idea there. Arlaja Stevens, a Walmart employee who said she was fired after missing too many shifts because of complications of her pregnancy. And those stories, plus the broader evidence from this advocacy group report, this labor advocacy group report, that 85% of Walmart employees surveyed say that they're not Walmart penalizes workers for taking sick days is all very, very disturbing stuff. So that violates Article 24 of the UDHR, but in major violation of Article 23, Sub-Article 4 of the UDHR is the strikes that the Article 23, Sub-Article 4 of the UDHR is all about striking and labor unions, which is a big part of Walmart and something that Walmart does not want to have around them because one former Walmart store manager tells the story after discovering a pro-union flyer in the store men's room. His company informed company headquarters, and within 24 hours, an anti-union SWAT team flew to his store in a corporate jet. And so Walmart's viciously anti-union. One time they had, back in Texas, back in 2000, a meat department of a Walmart store became the retailer's only operation in the United States to unionize. And 2 weeks later, Walmart says, okay, we're using prepackaged meat, and we're going to eliminate butchers at the store. That store, as well as 179 others. So they've shown to really retaliate for workers who want to unionize and want to strike, which is a legally covered form of protesting. So that's some of their main problems. Also, they have some of the lowest wages in the country. It's just not very good stuff at all from Walmart. So Keegan, what have you been able to find about American Outfitters?
American Eagle Outfitters, they themselves do not break or harm any UDHR articles. They only dissociate themselves from it. What I mean by that is, before any factory can or is allowed to produce for American Eagle Outfitters, they go through an inspection and they have to follow all the criteria of this thing called the American Eagle Code of Conduct, which is basically the UDHR. The American Eagle Outfitters, everyone that works with them has to follow this Code of Conduct, which follows basically Articles 25, which is a big one, Article 23, and Article 5. So American Eagle, if they see a factory that does abuse human rights, they simply cut them off. They say, you cannot work for us, and we will not accept any production from you. They do not stop that factory from doing what they do. American Eagle just cuts ties with them. So this way, inhumane acts and principles cannot be linked to American Eagle Outfitters, which in turn be linked to their reputation. So in one case, American Eagle Outfitters has been inspecting one factory, and during inspection, a leaked video of sandblasting was spread through the internet. So what it was is workers working in dangerous conditions with dangerous equipment sandblasting in the vicinity of vulnerable people. What American did in turn was say, they cut off this factory from production, and they did not let them produce for American Eagle Outfitters. This way, American Eagle Outfitters can have a good name, a good reputation, but while themselves, they aren't doing anything to stop these inhumane acts. But there's nothing much we can do about that because American Eagle cannot be linked to these inhumane acts. And apart from the initial inspection, American Eagle Outfitters has to inspect every factory at least once a year. And on top of that once-a-year inspection, they also have surprise inspections scattered throughout the year to make sure that companies are keeping a consistent, humane condition for all of its workers.
Okay, so that seems like, I mean, they are kind of somewhat able to follow the UDHR, but they just don't really seem to be focused on making any real changes into the way they conduct their business. Daniel, what have you been able to find about Adidas?
So Adidas is a very interesting company. They don't really care about their workers. They have on their website, it talks about how they care about their safety and they want to make sure that they're healthy and able to work and get more production to help the productivity of the company. But if you look into the workers' lives, they're getting paid $9 an hour, which is way under the minimum wage. And also, these workers have to just work extra time, day in and day out, in order just to support their family. Since they're working so many hours, they're missing time with their family in order to make long-lasting memories that should last a lifetime. But it's interesting because Adidas is also violating Article 24, where everyone has the right to rest and leisure, including reasonable limitation of working hours and periodic holidays with pay. They don't get time off. They have to be working all the time. And in addition to this, also they aren't abiding by Article 23, which states workers are allowed to join or form trade unions to protect their workers' rights. And if these workers decide to speak out and not be silenced by Adidas and the owners, they usually get fired. There was a big rally in protest against Adidas and the working conditions, and a ton of workers all rallied up and tried to fight for their rights. And Adidas fired them. They found out if you were caught, they fired you on the spot. And this really cut family wages, and people had to work harder and harder in order to make more money in other companies. Also, the children of these families are now being forced into labor in order to put food on the table and make money for the family. Obviously, Adidas does not care about their workers' rights, even though it states directly from their website that they care and want to help them for the betterment of the company.
That is actually very interesting because that is also in tandem. You found Adidas to be violating the same rights and the same articles of the UDHR that I found Walmart to be violating. And I was wondering, Daniel, if you thought there could be any pattern to that, and like why are those two rights, the right to time off and the right to unions and organizing, why do you think those are the rights that are being violated?
I think those are the rights because if you look at Adidas, you can see how big their company is. You walk down the street, you have many people wearing their clothes and shoes, and I think part of the reason is because as they're trying to grow bigger and bigger, these workers have to work longer and longer, and if it's not done right, they're usually harassed and yelled at. So Adidas is trying to make them work more and more in order for their products to get bigger and bigger and the company to grow larger and larger.
Okay, so it's all about like the bottom line and not necessarily treating the workers the right way for Adidas, is what you're saying?
Yes, that's exactly.
Yeah, I would say very similar things to about that to Walmart. I would pretty much echo that sentiment because they're a big corporation. And they only really care about getting as much goods out as possible. And I mean, if other things happen to stand in their way, like, for example, a meat department in Texas wanting to unionize, the Walmart will go all out in an attempt to retaliate against them. So, Keegan, I was wondering, like, what do you think American Eagle Outfitters could do to improve their relationship with their factories and just be better corporate citizens in general?
Well, American Eagle, they do not break any human rights in the UDHR, less because they actually care about these human rights, but more because of their care of their own reputation. So if American Eagle Outfitters feels that a company does not follow the criteria of the Code of Conduct or the UDHR, they don't really care about the people that work for the company. They think about themselves, and if they allow these companies to work for them, what would their reputation be? So instead of risking the reputation, they cut off any ties, and they just don't make business with these companies.
Okay, so that does seem to be a very interesting thing. Do you recommend that American Eagle Outfitters should take a little bit more of an active stance of trying to stop these abuses instead of just disassociating themselves?
Well, if they're activists, absolutely, absolutely. They're a big company. There's a lot they can do because they have name, money, all this good stuff, and their good reputation. They have communication with these factories, and they see what is going on in these factories. They could definitely do something. They could definitely confront the owners of these factories, make them stop what they're doing, whatnot, instead of just saying, no, we don't want to work with you guys.
All right, so that's all very interesting stuff. It's going to be very interesting to see what type of course American Eagle Outfitters takes on that front.
And Spencer, I was wondering, what are the lifestyles of these workers?
Oh, thank you for the question. In Walmart, it depends really what kind of position you are in, but for most workers in the store who are in very few cases actually getting paid a living wage, which by American standards means around $15 an hour, it's very clear to see that Walmart employees are not really able to have that much freedom in their day-to-day lives. Many of them still languish in poverty, as they are some of the again, they're the biggest employer in the world, so that the fact that they just don't seem to really pay their workers enough is really a big effect on statistics in America to do with poverty. Why so many Americans could be living paycheck to paycheck and can't cover, I think 40% of Americans cannot cover a $400 expense, like literally to save their lives, an emergency expense. And it just really shows you that Walmart is not giving its workers enough kind of breathing room in today's economy. Because, for example, if they had, and this is actually a real life situation that I mentioned earlier in my original presentation, if you have, for example, a miscarriage, it's a tragic event in your life, but you're expected to pretty much be at work within the next few days, or you lose your already very low-paying job, and it's very hard for you to be able to provide for your family if you already have a kid, or just continue to live sustainably. Maybe you want to go to the movies, maybe you want to go out with your spouse or your family or something like that. It's very hard to support a family, live comfortably, and grow and just live life comfortably and economically in today's America, living under Walmart's wage. It's very, very tough to do that. Daniel, I was wondering how it works for you with Adidas. Like, what's the Adidas? What's the lifestyle for American or international workers who work with Adidas?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, as I said a little earlier, the workers are paid $9 per hour. So that's a very low amount of money. So they don't have a lot of breathing room and a lot of wiggle room to pay for things. So they try and live as frugal as possible, not buying too much, but trying to support their family. They live in these 8 by 10 boxes that have no air conditioning and get very hot. They don't have any sofas or any nice things in their house, but if they're ever sick or something like that and their family needs help, they can't take that many days off of work because they won't get paid. And also, if they take too much time off, Adidas will fire them. Adidas is very strict on them, even though they're trying to support their family and trying to make sure that their family can succeed and be the best they possibly can.
My overall understanding of these three giant companies, they're all big employers globally. Like the AE, the American Eagle, has 22.6 global employees, and in 2016 had an operating income of $331 million. And this is just one example of these three giant companies. So what I think is that all these companies have in their power and the money to improve the lifestyles of the people that work for them, but they just don't because of, greed.
Yeah, and I think that's a very interesting point that you talk about there, Keegan, with the idea of just so many corporations, like they're focused on paying their CEOs and their executives a lot of money and not really worried about the workers, the actual workers who make the company and bring the